been to the equator? How many people in this room?
What?
No one's been to the equator? I'm sure there's some of you. Okay. Can you imagine, you know how hot it is in the equator? So can you imagine being in the equator and shivering? That was my experience on one particular night. I was crouched behind a wall and I was absolutely terrified. I was anything but unflappable. If people were looking for me had found me, I would not be here tonight recounting this story. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow HODers, and to our many welcome guests as well. In the 90s, I was working in Jakarta, Indonesia for a while, and I was running a club with a good friend of mine called Mark. And between the two of us, we worked in many clubs around the world. And so we had a lot of experience of nightlife. And so we took over a club that had been performing very badly, and we completely transformed it. And it had been losing lots of money, and we made it into the best club in Jakarta. And we were packed every single night. And it was actually the first time in my life I've ever worked 9 to 5. Because we opened at 9 p.m. and we closed at 5 a.m. But it was a great club. And around the same time that we opened, the Hard Rock Cafe opened in Jakarta. And they had an enormous budget. And the guy that actually opened the club was a gentleman called Adi Guna, who was the head of the mafia in Indonesia. And to give you an idea of what he looked like, he had kind of greased back hair and he wore some sort of dodgy suit. He looks a little bit like Bobby. And he, as I said, he owned the club. But the person he got to actually manage the club was his mistress, a lady called Putri. Anyway, so one night, Putri came into our club to kind of check us out, see what we were doing, and we were packed on this night that she came in. And she just kind of had to look around, and then Mark, who was my partner in the club, and he was the kind of like the front man, and I was the entertainment manager, and I was DJing and so on. Anyway, Mark went up to talk to her. And I was a very good friend of Mark, and I'd known him many years, and I knew his body language inside out. And it was very evident to me that he was flirting with her. Now, considering she was the mistress of the top mafia man in Indonesia, maybe not such a great idea. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, Mark went over to the Hard Rock Cafe and asked me to come along so we could kind of check the place out. Mark started chatting with Putri again, and then once again, he was shamelessly flirting with her, and I was thinking, I don't think this is such a good idea, Mark. Anyway, Christmas Eve, 1992. Adi Guna comes into our club. We were absolutely packed. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, he comes into the club. I've never seen him before, so I have no idea what he looks like. But he goes upstairs, and Mark has seen him. So Mark goes upstairs as well to say hello to him. So a conversation ensues. And Adi didn't unfortunately speak very good English. And he asked Mark, he said, what is your relationship with Putri? And Mark said, professional, meaning she's the manager of Hard Rock and he's the manager here. Now, because Adi didn't speak very good English, he took professional to mean prostitute. He had a glass in his hand at the time. Well, the glass wasn't in his hand very long because next thing it was in Mark's eye. It missed his eyeball by inches, or sorry, millimetres, not inches. Anyway, I was downstairs at the time, I was playing the music, and suddenly I've heard all these screams from upstairs. I have no idea what's going on. And a few seconds later, David, our head of security, is running down the stairs with Mark, blood pouring out of his face. And I'm, what's going on? And I'm expecting to see security coming down with some people to chuck them out, and after a few minutes, this clearly isn't happening. So I've obviously wondering what's going on because no one's giving me any information. I've left the DJ box, ran upstairs and shouted, who the hell did this? And there's a big space around one particular guy. And everyone's kind of looking a bit sheepish and no one's saying anything. And a couple of people are kind of gesturing towards this one guy. And I've shouted at security, get this guy out of here. And security, our security were big guys. They're all local guys, but they were pretty big. And normally they were very confident. But on this particular occasion, they were anything but confident. And no one was really too keen to ask this guy to move. But one of the guys said, if you could leave. And Adi Guna walked down the stairs, and I had no idea who this was. And then as he left, one of the security said to me, oh, by the way, that's the head of the mafia in Indonesia. Okay. So anyway, he's left the club. I've gone back to the DJ box. naively thinking that everything is okay now. 15 minutes later, all hell broke loose. 7 of Ali Guna's henchmen burst into the club, carrying machetes, knives, and all kinds of other weapons. The DJ box was on a stage, and there was only one way onto the stage. And if this is the DJ box here, the way in is this way, and next to me, there's a big drop of about 20 feet, and the cashier's desk is right there. And that's the only way I can get out, because I can't get out this way, because they're coming in this way. I will never be able to do this again in my entire life. It was the adrenaline. I jumped over a jump that was about 15 foot wide and about 20 foot down. In one bound, I managed to land on the floor, and I was out the door. And it was about the same as this. I was out that door and into the back garden of the club. And it was pitch black. We had no lights there, and there was weeds and jungles and trees and all kinds of stuff in our back garden. And I found a wall, and I'm crouched down, and I'm hiding behind this wall because they've all come out looking for me. And I have never been so terrified in my life. And I'm just shaking there. And I think they must have figured that I ran through the club and jumped over the back wall, because it seemed like they left, but I couldn't be sure because I couldn't see anything, and I wasn't going to come out from my hiding spot in case they were still there. So I sat there for 2 hours, never been so petrified ever. And eventually I came out and I realised that they weren't there. I walked back to the club, and all the staff ran up to me and they were hugging me because they feared the worst. We went back, and Mark had to go to hospital, and eventually we went back. And I was sharing a house with 2 other English guys at the time, and it's now Christmas Day. And I've got all these images through my head of me being crucified on Christmas Day. When David, our head of security, came round to our house to give us some news, he said, Ali Goon has decided not to take this any further, because if he does take it any further, the news will spread, and then his wife, who was very powerful, came from a very powerful family, was very rich, would then find out about his mistress, so he decided to leave it be. That's probably the best Christmas present I've ever had in my life. Mr. Toastmaster.